Remember when it was exposed that Subway used in its bread the same chemical found in yoga mats? The author, activist, and food industry critic behind this crusade has also spearheaded many others, targeting multi-billion-dollar corporations like Kraft, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, and Starbucks. Her new critically acclaimed book, titled The Food Babe Way, is a New York Times bestseller that invites readers to follow an easy and accessible plan to ridding their bodies of toxins, losing weight without counting calories, and restoring their natural glow in just 21 days. She truly is a living testament of the difference a single person can make. Vani, welcome to TeenTake.
Hey, Andrew, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to finally do this. I know it's been long in the making.
So, Vani, recently we've seen companies like Kraft, Crisco, Frito-Lay, even McDonald's producing organic or antibiotic-free variants of their products. Meanwhile, in Europe, these toxic chemicals have been banned for years. So my question is, although progress is being made, why is the US still so far behind this nutritional curve?
Unfortunately, our FDA is asleep at the wheel. We live in a system where the FDA has several loopholes that allow food companies to approve these additives for use without any oversight. There are several additives that are in the food supply today, according to the NRDC, the National Resources Defense Fund, who looks at these additives and has found that there's over 1,000 additives that have never been reviewed by the FDA and only reviewed by the food companies themselves. So there's a lot of self-regulation happening. And unfortunately, majority of the chemicals that have been invented in the last 50 years are only there to improve the bottom line of the food industry, and not improve the health of Americans or other people around the world. In Europe, when an artificial food dye is used, they have a warning label that warns parents that says may have adverse effects on activity and attention in children. So when, a consumer goes down the grocery store aisle, picks up a product for their child, if they see this, and maybe their child's also on medication for this, they have a moment, a decision-making ability at that moment to say, you know what, I don't want to consume this, or I'm not going to support these artificial food dyes made from petroleum. But here in the United States, we do not give that power to the consumer. We've kept this information pretty hidden from the consumer for a very long time. Thankfully, with the rise of social media and the amazing people I call the Food Babe Army who share this information so voraciously with everyone that they know, this information is finally getting out and getting these companies to finally remove these petroleum-based dyes that don't provide any nutritional benefit. A lot of these antibiotics are given to farm animals, number one, to live and survive in really inhumane circumstances, which is a really sad phenomenon when we look at factory farming. But it's also used to fatten up these animals. So it's used as a profit generator. And so it's really important for the public to realize that a lot of the antibiotics being used isn't necessary to keep the animals healthy. It's actually used before they even get sick. And we need to make a commitment to humanely raise animals that we eat as a society. And we need to make a commitment to only buy meat that hasn't been raised with antibiotics. And if we all make that commitment, if we all make that choice, we can really change the landscape.
Ancient Greek physician Hippocrates advised, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." But now, Vani, it seems we value taste and convenience over long-term health. And in the book, you write, "We eat with our eyes." Please explain to viewers what this means and why it's so important.
Yeah, one of the things that really has been interesting hearing the news reports come out about Kraft mac and cheese removing artificial food dyes, I've received some tweets, and some of the tweets have said, oh my gosh, I hope the formula doesn't taste different, or I hope it doesn't change. And I think people need to realize that, number one, Kraft has already been making this food without artificial food dyes for their European citizens for many years. And I've done a taste test challenge, and I've tasted both. And the one without dyes tastes exactly the same, and it's just as yellow. So there's not much going to change. And so I think when people realize that they can live without these additives and they can eat real food, and they start to taste real food, it actually tastes better than this man-made, chemically invented, processed dead food that is on the majority of grocery store shelves across the nation. And when people start to realize that, you know what, that little bitty speck of blue in my oatmeal isn't truly blueberries, it's colored apples, and they realize that they've been deceived into thinking that they're eating blueberries or eating strawberries or eating something else when they eat this processed food. I hope it opens people's eyes about, how are we going to get nutrition into our bodies? How are we going to realize our best selves and our best true health when we're eating food that really isn't food? It's fake food or food-like substances. And when I was healing my own body, Andrew, I think it's so important to realize the first thing I did was make a decision. Every single time I decided to eat something, I said to myself, is this going to provide life to my body, or is it going to take it away? And what I realized is that the majority of foods in the middle aisles of the grocery store were going to take life away from me. They weren't going to provide a lot of nutrition. They had been processed to death. And when you eat dead foods, that's how you're going to feel. And when you eat live foods, real, whole, plant-based foods, and you limit the amount of meat and dairy that you eat, you start to realize a health that you never thought was possible. And that is the fundamental message of the Food Babe Way, because I truly believe it is up to all of us. It is our responsibility to learn these chemicals that are in our food, to learn these ingredients, to know why they're there. And if they're only there to improve the bottom line of the food industry, why eat them? Are they improving my health? That is the fundamental question people need to ask.
Just this past month, Vani, Time named you one of the top 30 most influential people on the internet. Being on the front lines every day, how do you see the internet positively impacting the fight for food transparency?
Well, more than ever, we are in the driver's seat, the consumer. I am not a scientist. I am not a chemist. I am not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. I'm an everyday person that went from someone eating a lot of processed foods and fast foods to taking back control of my health and realizing a health that I never thought was possible, eliminating all my prescription drugs and looking years younger, many years older. And I want everyone to feel as good as me and realize this. And I think so many people are realizing this health right now. They realize when they start to eliminate processed foods from their diet, many of these additives that are risky or have health impacts associated with them based on scientific studies done by other countries, they realize that they start to feel better and they start to look better and they start to realize there's not that struggle any longer. And, I tell you, there were so many times where I was in that struggle where I believed what the food industry was telling me, or their paid hired experts saying, you know what, if you drink that Diet Coke, you're going to feel great. 0 calories. Little did I know at the time that those artificial sweeteners were actually linked to weight gain, for you to crave more food after you've already consumed that. Isn't that the reverse of being on a diet, to crave more food? And so I learned all of these different tricks through my investigations, and that is what I share on my blog, foodbabe.com, and that is what other people and so many other activists, bloggers, researchers, scientists, and consumer activist organizations are sharing voraciously online. And that's why you see this tidal wave of companies changing left and right. And that is ultimately what allows these companies to finally realize, you know what, we need to change. We need to respond to these consumers. They are the ones who hold the power. They might have the money, these big companies, but we have the power when we come together online, on social media, and share this information. And I think it's so important for people to realize that a simple little share button, or a simple little tagging your friend or tagging your family member, or emailing an article to somebody can make a tremendous impact on not only changing the food industry, but on your family's health.
Real quickly, Vani, what's been your overall reaction to First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign, part of which mandates supposedly healthier school lunches? Do you think it's a worthwhile cause or simply a PR stunt gone wrong?
Well, I really think that Michelle Obama's heart is in the right direction. And unfortunately, the way corporations have had their influence on Washington has unfortunately, I think, delayed some of the progress that could be made by a program like Let's Move. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of corporations that partner with Let's Move to do a lot of these things. Corporations like, that are unfortunately making us sicker as a nation, that continue to serve kids too much sugar and continue to serve kids chemicals and ingredients they really don't need to be eating. The school system is something that absolutely needs to be rehauled. And when I go eat lunch with my friend who's a principal, and I go and I bring my lunch and I bring her a lunch and I see what the other kids are eating at schools, I mean, it breaks my heart. I mean, there's just not enough nutrition. There's not enough plant-based foods. There's not enough food that isn't completely processed and nuked to death before it gets on that child's plate. And that is something that needs to change. And we all need to work towards. I hope that one day when I have kids, I'll be able to spend more time on this issue because I'll be so close to it and I'll be able to learn more about it and be in the position that I can make an impact.
In closing, Vani, what's one practical tip viewers can apply to their diets today to ultimately lead a healthier lifestyle?
One of the things that really fundamentally changed me and my health was I added one green drink a day. And that could be anything from like a small wheatgrass shot to a green smoothie or a green juice that you make in a juicer. And I think one of the easiest things that teens and everyone can make is a green smoothie by just in a blender, any basic blender, take some kale or collards or spinach or romaine, some type of green vegetable, and combining it with fruit. And you can even add a protein component like pumpkin seeds or hemp seeds or chia seeds or some type of hemp protein, or you can even add like some great yogurt, some plain yogurt, something like that to add that protein component. And it can be like a great snack. It could be a breakfast. It could be a small meal. And I tell you, that is one way to get greens in your diet, especially early in the morning, because I know many people who don't eat salads first thing in the morning. I know I don't, although I would. And I think that's just a great way to include a vegetable that's really hard to get in your diet otherwise, considering the over-processed world that we live in. And it's one way that I personally love to enjoy my vegetables, and it's just something that I do every single day. And not only do I put in greens, but I put in things like celery and cucumber and beets and carrots and other things too that really make delicious smoothies. And when it's blended with fruit, you really don't even taste the vegetables, and it's just delicious and very refreshing.
Vani Hari, foodbabe.com, thank you so much for joining me today. I am forever indebted to you and your activism. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. If you liked this interview, consider clicking on screen now to go to my Patreon campaign. From there, you can pledge X amount of dollars per interview I produce. This will ultimately help offset costs such as stock footage, which can be very expensive, sometimes $70 per clip. So what's this interview worth to you? $1, $5, $10, nothing? Either way, click the link on screen now to go to my Patreon campaign. It'll really help me out. Come on, click it. I know you want to do it. Thanks again, and peace.